Okay, we're starting now, and this is Mike James, and with Affordable Business Solutions. But what I'm going to be talking about today is the PPP forgivable loans. And there's some people out here that will be watching this that know I've been advocating for small businesses for quite a while, quite some years, as a matter of fact. And so this is just a continuation of pretty much what I've been doing. Yes, I do some other things in publishing, a few things in transportation, but as a small business advocate, I feel like that's what I'm called to. Even in the things I do that helps businesses from a marketing standpoint, or helping to build their business or grow their business, it's still all about advocating for small businesses. So now, during the pandemic, it gives me an opportunity to do that even more so by helping some businesses that didn't know that they qualify for the PPP forgivable loans. Mainly a lot of small businesses, a lot of independent contractors, sole proprietors, a lot of single member LLCs, a lot of real estate um, brokers, just people like that that didn't know, gig workers that didn't know that they qualify for the PPP forgivable loans, because during the first round last year, a lot of your larger businesses, larger corporations applied for the money and they got it, and basically depleted the source or the resource in a pretty short period of time. So a lot of small businesses and independent contractors were left pretty much out in the cold as it relates to PPP loans. So during this second round, the government wanted to make sure that sole proprietors, independent contractor, gig workers, they wanted to make sure that they apply, but not only apply, but also were able to get this forgivable loan. So here I am. We're almost 1 month away from the end of the PPP era. And I just want to make sure that those out there that who have not applied, but you are eligible, if you filed taxes in 2019 and you have a Schedule C with any gross income on your line 7, then you are more than likely eligible for this PPP loan. So again, they're basing that on line 7, your gross as opposed to your net. Because of course, if you're an independent contractor, sole proprietor, you're probably taking as many deductions as you can. So that net number may not look that great. And I've seen some people that I've been able to help to get these loans, had a net where they were going to get like $140 or something like that, to where once they put that gross number in, that forgivable loan amount changed from 145 to 5,000 and something. So again, it can make a huge difference. So I'm just encouraging you, if you have not applied, you're an independent contractor, sole proprietor, landscaper, you name it, any type of work that you may do, that you still file a 1040 and you have a Schedule C, and you I mean, you can have W-2 income, but if you have any 1099 income that you're claiming as well, then you're eligible for this forgivable PPP loan. Today I'm going to talk about the second draw a little bit, but if you haven't done the first draw, go ahead and apply. I'm going to include that information in this video, down in the bottom in the description and everything, where you can go to apply, how you can apply, and really it takes like 15 minutes to find out if you're pre-approved or not. So once you get that information, then it's just a matter of your documentation checking out. As long as your documentation matches pretty much what you're saying, then more than likely you're going to get this forgivable loan, and that will give you a loan number with the SBA, which can come in handy down the road if you're building a business, because you definitely want to put yourself in a position to where if later on you need funding from the SBA, you already having a loan number with them, so you have yourself established somewhat. Now, SBA loans, outside of what's happening right now with the PPP monies and some other things, the EIDLs. Some of the other SBA loans require some different things, but we won't talk about that right now. I'm gonna stick to the PPP loans because again, we're almost 30 days from uh, this coming to the end. Right now, they still have about $35 billion that's still available. 35 billion is a lot of money, right? Because they had about 285 billion, close to 300 billion in this new bill. So again, now a lot of people have gotten a loan. I've helped over 50 people to get pre-approved for the loan. A lot of them have already been funded, and then a lot of them are just waiting to be funded. Everything is straight. The application is straight. Everything's in. They're just waiting for to be funded. So I'm encouraging you if you haven't done it yet to go ahead and apply. Again, you're going to find out if you're pre-approved in 15 minutes, and then just be in line to get the first draw. If you haven't received the first draw, definitely go ahead and get the first draw. But now, once you receive the first draw, and this is something that we've been kind of going back and forth on, because at one time there was a stipulation that you have to wait 8 weeks before you can apply for the second draw. I've heard from different sources, and I haven't seen anywhere on the SBA site that you have to wait 8 weeks. So I'm going to encourage you. The only thing that they say in the language is you would have to have used the first draw money that you received before you receive the second draw. So as long as you've used that money and you've used it according to how they say you can use the money, which if you're a sole proprietor, independent contractor, for the most part, what's going to take care of that is owner's compensation because you're able to file that as owner's compensation. So it pretty much allows you to spend it however you want to. If you have employees, there are some stipulations as far as how you can spend that money, more so because you just can't take it as owner's compensation if you have employees. But if you don't have any employees, you pretty much have that owner's compensation stipulation that will allow you to have no problem with getting this loan forgiven. So it's almost like a grant, pretty much. But now let's talk about the second draw. For some of you that see this video that you've already received the first draw through the source that I use and the source that I'm partnered with, which is the largest small business partner out there, then you can go ahead and apply for the second draw. And these are 10 things you should know about the second draw, which one is the deadline and funds availability. As I mentioned, there's about $35 billion that's left right now as of yesterday. Of course, that number changes every day as they're funding, but go ahead and apply. Eligibility and requirements. As we mentioned, the deadline, it was March 31st, but they did change that to May 31st. So they extended it 2 months to make sure that people had an opportunity to apply because they still had a lot of money left at the end of March 31st. And in here you see all the different, I'm not going to read through all of these eligibility requirements. Some of the in generals, no collateral, 100% second draw, no guarantees required. And then the interest rate on the loan, 5 years, it's a 1% loan. Even if you think about this, even if it's not forgiven, because I had this come up before. Someone said, well, what if they don't forgive it? What if I, and pretty much, if you're a sole proprietor, it's going to be forgiven pretty much 100%. But let's say, for instance, it's not forgiven. You're in business, you're making some income with your business, or you wouldn't be filing for this loan, period. And it's a 1% loan. And let's say you got $5,000. Okay. You're just doing something part time, made some extra money. You're eligible for this loan. It's a $5,000 loan. And for whatever reason, you don't get your paperwork in the year or half a year that it takes to apply for forgiveness or whatever the situation may be. And it's a 1% loan on $5,000 that you have to pay back over 5 years. Now, if you're in business and you have a 1% loan that you can't pay back in 5 years, um, I don't know. Maybe that business is not working for you. But anyway, I digress. It's forgivable loan, 1% interest, matures in 5 years. As a matter of fact, you do have a little grace period on it too, as far as when you have to start paying it back. But again, this is a forgivable loan. The eligibility requirements, it goes over that in here. And these are documents that, I can put out there on the web. As a matter of fact, you can actually go to the SBA website and they have a PDF that has a lot of this stuff in here. Using your taxpayer identification number, social security number, if you're self-employed or sole proprietor, independent contractor. They have some stipulations about bankruptcy. If you have filed for bankruptcy, make sure you go through that because they're going to, of course, want you to make sure you abide by whatever the guidelines are. It doesn't automatically disqualify you if you have a bankruptcy, but then too, there are some things that will disqualify you. And in certain questions, if you answer yes to some of the questions that they ask in the beginning, then yes, it's going to disqualify you from receiving this forgivable loan. Um, let's see some other things in here that we're going to touch on. Talk about gross receipts of nonprofits, gross receipts of affiliates. Let's see. Forgiveness amount, that's talking about the EIDL advance of the first draw PPP loans. That's for some people that did receive the EIDL loans or the advance and how that affects your PPP loans. Now, if you have that situation, we can talk about that at a different time. But most people will just be applying for the PPP loan either the first time or you're going in to apply for the second draw. And I'm just scrolling through this so you can just see some of the things that's in here. It's all these different eligibilities and then two based on how many employees you have and everything like that. But if you're a sole proprietor or independent contractor, or if you are a single member LLC or something like that, then most everything is going to be based on your Schedule C. It's what you see here. And they changed the criteria from when I received the first draw, where it was based on net, line 31. And so that was a lesser amount, right? So I didn't get the gross amount because they had not made that change at the time, which the president announced after he was elected that they were going to make that change and base it on gross to really help the small business, the independent contractor, sole proprietors, to really help them out because that net amount a lot of times is pretty small. But now, if you look here, you see now they're basing that on line 7, which is the gross amount. So get your applications in, don't delay. And listen, I say this to everybody out there. There's a good friend of mine. He's probably referred about 10 people to me. And I think all of them, I think almost all of them have been pre approved. Some of them have already gotten their funding. And most of those people were gig workers, whether they drove Uber, Lyft, did Instacart, DoorDash, all of those different things. Where a lot of those people felt like, no, these loans are not for me. They're for big businesses, people that have employees, but that's not true. So now a lot of gig workers, independent contractors, sole proprietors, real estate agents, you name it, they're going in now and going through the process again, pre-approval in 15 minutes and getting these forgivable PPP loans. And listen, a lot of people say, well, my business wasn't hurting during the pandemic. My business really wasn't affected that much. Okay, still, you had to spend money to either get masks, to get the little temporal thermometers, or, to be able to check people's temperatures, to more sanitizer, just different things that you may have had to do and spend money on that you didn't have to do in 2019. So even if that's the case, and two, some things have slowed down for some companies, some have not for others. But there's a lot of things you can do with the fund. So again, it's out there, and I'm going to leave, as I mentioned, a link to where you can apply. And then it goes over some payroll information, how you calculate those things, and um, as you're looking at the second draw, some of the criteria for the second draw. Now, one of the main things about the second draw and it being forgivable. Okay, I am going to put this out here. Let me see if that's where is that part of it. I want to get to that, and then I'm probably going to end this video pretty shortly. Um, Loan forgiveness. Let's see. Talks about that, the different amounts, but one of the stipulations for here it is right here for the second draw, right? With the second draw, in order for this loan to be forgivable, you must show at least a 25% reduction in gross revenues in any quarter of 2020. Okay. So, what they're talking about is if you go back to 2019, and 2019 was probably a good year for most companies out there. Now, some people did extremely well during the pandemic. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to a client of mine over in Burlington that um, has a takeout restaurant. Well, their revenues went up in 2020. Not a bad thing, but they still would qualify for a PPP loan, okay, because they went through the pandemic. They were in business in 2019 because most of the criteria is based on 2019. And then the second draw, now this is based on 2020. And what they're basing this on is if you had a reduction in revenues for any quarter during 2020. If you had any quarter that was less than a quarter in 2019, in 2020, then you're eligible for the loan forgiveness with the second draw. So that's important. Just keep that in mind. And most people did. Most people did have a quarter where they were less than what they were in 2019 because even especially after the lockdown, okay? So lockdown basically in North Carolina where I am was March the 15th. So even if you were in a business that it took a little while to pivot, people were still pretty much inside from March, most of April. So again, so that second quarter for a lot of people, myself included, that second quarter, I definitely had less revenue in that second quarter of 2020 than I did in 2019. So I can go get a quarter from 2019 and say, hey, in 2020, that second quarter of 2020 was less than my third quarter in 2019. And it doesn't have to match quarter for quarter. It doesn't have to be second quarter in 2019 was more than the second quarter in 2020. It can be any quarter in 2019 and you had a reduction in 2020, at least 25% or more. So keep that in mind. And again, I just want to kind of walk through this information with you, but the main thing was to encourage people to go ahead and apply for the second draw if you've received the first draw. And then if you have not received any of them, then yes, now is the time to go ahead and apply. Because as I mentioned, there's 35 billion that's still left. So, but 35 billion between now and May 31st uh, may not be there. So, look, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And as I mentioned, I'm going to have the link in the description of the video. And also, I'm thinking about doing a question and answer maybe Friday or Saturday where I'm going to do a live event just around the PPP loans and answering questions and clarifying some things for some people, and then also making the link available for people to apply and be pre-approved. Um, even while we're doing the live event. So again, my name is Mike James, and I thank you for looking in. And the main thing is, I'm just trying to help small business owners, small businesses to just make sure they taking advantage of those opportunities that are out there for them, and just letting you know what's going on. All right, so I'm going to